Hello everyone, I am Dionne with Short and Sweet Languages, and I teach Spanish to families who love people, culture, and travel. So this video is a collab with Chips and Salsa Homeschooling. These ladies, they have an awesome channel about homeschooling, and as you know, I homeschool my two daughters, and Didi and Jimena from Chips and Salsa Homeschooling, they have older kids, but they do awesome videos about homeschooling. They give tips and tricks and, well, maybe not tricks, but you know, just different ways to do things. They answer questions and they just look at a lot of different facets about homeschooling. So it's really fun. They are really fun. So check out their channel, Chips and Salsa Homeschooling. So thank you, Didi and Jimena, for including me in your collab. And the reason they did is because the topic or the title of this collab is How I Teach Spanish as we homeschool. And so the way I teach my girls Spanish or another language is a little bit different, right? Because I have complete access to them daily. So I am going to share with you how I teach my girls Spanish, but also how I teach them other languages, because I am a native Spanish speaker. And so that's going to look different if you are not a native Spanish speaker, right? And I've talked about this before, but I'll go through the three main things that I do when I teach Spanish or another language. So number one is exposure. This is the most important part. So my girls are young. So how I taught them Spanish was complete exposure. And because I'm a native speaker, it would be 24/7. That is all I spoke to them since birth. And then when my oldest was 3, I put in a little English. So all she knew was Spanish because my husband speaks Spanish and my parents do. And so her world was Spanish. So that was her first language. Then when she turned 3, she started wanting to play with friends and they were speaking a different language. And I felt bad for her. I'm like, oh, my poor baby, she can't communicate. What have I done? And so you guys, it was a matter of weeks of me speaking a little English to her, where she completely picked it up, but it was minimal from my part, but she saw that I could speak English, but really she picked it up from the kids themselves because she picked up their words, their phrases, because the interest was there, right? And so that exposure is for coming from someone that is a native speaker. So let me move on to, if you are let's say you're an intermediate speaker, intermediate advanced, I like to think that I have that level in Italian. And so this is what I did. I exposed, so this is about exposure, most important thing. When my oldest was 4 and 5, those couple of years, I spoke a lot of Italian to her. As much as I could. I am not 100% fluent in Italian, but I get by pretty well. And I know all the basics and have conversations. And so as much as I could, and my phone was, it's always attached to me anyway, let's be real. So I would look up words, but you know, it's a little kid, 4 and 5-year-old. I could pretty much handle any conversation with her. So I just exposed her a lot. Like I would speak in Italian and she'd be like, what that means, da 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 da. The advantage that I had is that Italian is very similar to Spanish. So she would understand a lot of it, or just pick up the context. And the other part of exposure was cartoons. So for those few years, every time she wanted to watch a cartoon, I would say, okay, but it needs to be in Italian. And so about that, it all depends on the ages, right? So if you have a teenager or even a tween that is super into music, then you've got to tap into that interest and bring in the exposure through that interest. So, and theirs maybe would be music and not so much cartoons. So you find music, or you have them, you don't have to find it for them, you know, the style of music that they like or whatever. You tell them, okay, go and find me 5 songs in Spanish that you like. There are beautiful ballads and all types of every genre of music that you can think of, it exists in Spanish as well. It's not just mariachi songs, trust me. So go assign them, go find some music that you like, have them write out the lyrics, and they will get into it, I promise. This is the best thing that has worked for my girls, again, they're little, but it has been cartoons a lot. And I know the whole screen time, they don't get a lot of screen time, but at that age, it was, if you want to watch it, it's got to be in this language. It has changed since because we're doing different languages, but the basic has stayed. So number one, exposure. The third category, if you are learning along with them, if you're a beginner learner of Spanish and you're learning along with your kids, I suggest the same exposure. So I would really, really, really encourage cartoons. One, and two, if they are young, right? And two is that you stay a step ahead of them. So whatever you are studying, so for an example is Chinese. We are all learning Chinese together. And so I'm at definitely a beginner level, and I need to, we're doing the cartoon. I found my favorite ones, songs, cute little songs that help us remember. I have my favorite channel for that, YouTube channel of Chinese little songs. There's amazing people putting great content out there to learn languages. So if you are starting out with Spanish, you got to stay ahead. You've got to, okay, what's the vocabulary we're learning? What are the phrases we are learning? What are we doing? And you study them and you learn them. Don't literally learn along with them. Like, okay, let's watch this video and see what we can pick up. Like, no, you learn it first. I can't emphasize this enough. If you are a beginner, stay ahead of your kids if you try to teach them Spanish as well, because their attention span is like this. And so you're gonna lose them in your like, oh wait, no, we don't say it like that. Wait, what did she say? Or whatever. So highly recommend it. So one, exposure. That's how I teach Spanish or any other language. Lots of exposure. And then if I'm at a beginner level, I get lots of cartoons and I pick up a lot of resources like books and da-da-da. Number two, usage. So how I teach Spanish is like the girls have to use it in their everyday living, right? Even the brand new language that they know a little bit about. So Spanish, obviously, they picked up and they use it because that's all they knew at the beginning. Italian and Chinese. So what I do, and this is also what I do in the Spanish course that I am creating for families to learn Spanish together, is I take a section of the house, like the kitchen, and we eat, right? Around the dining room table or the conversations that we have in the kitchen, and I pick up phrases. Now, this is another thing, a main thing that I do. I use phrases as opposed to just vocabulary, right? So sometimes I won't even do, like for example, in Chinese, they know some colors. We looked at shapes one time, but I don't focus on shapes like circle, triangle, square. I want to focus on vocabulary that they will use now. Now, here's another tip, another extra tip. Try to record your kids, whatever age they are, really, and record like their conversations for a whole day. I don't mean like be sneaky and go around, but just what they usually say. If you can write it down, great, but that takes forever. I would record it and then go through it and see what phrases they use the most. For my kids, it was, can I please go outside? Can I do this? Can I do that? May I do this? May I do that? And look at her, that's not fair. I know it sucks, but this is what they're saying. And so something they can use. So when we are in the kitchen, right? I do have the vocabulary, okay? All, the fruits, and not all the fruits that they use, that we eat, what we see. Mom, can I have a fork? Can I have some more, please? I don't want any more. Can I have a napkin, please? Whatever, like everything your kids say in the kitchen, write it down, translate it, know it in Spanish. You know it in Spanish. Teach them. Bring it back to the classroom. So I write them out. I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to learn. And first, it is not written. Again, mine are little, but still. I would do verbal first. That's what I do. I do verbal. Okay, this is how we ask for a napkin. Da, da, da. And I'll bring the things, and this is what we do. So that they've heard it before. It won't be the first time once we are in the kitchen. And then, like for Chinese, I have it written down. I have a little card and I have it in the kitchen. I have it posted. And if I forget something, I can look at it. But they know how to ask for things in Chinese, how to say thank you. I'm full. I want some more, whatever. And so we practice that. And then you move to another section of the house and do some more phrases phrases and vocabulary. That's how I teach it. Okay. Let me know, like, if you have any questions, you can make a comment, ask me a question down below, and I'll answer it, or I can create another video about, I also have like favorite channels and stuff like that. So usage. And then after you do, I mean, it's a great accomplishment if your kids or whoever you're teaching, right, Spanish to, know all phrases for the bathroom, the kitchen, the living room, I don't know, whatever, and just general phrases. Then you move it outside. Okay, we're going grocery shopping. What do we talk about? Da, da, da. And so definitely you've got to prepare and be intentional and think about it. Okay, we're about to have dinner and we're going to do Spanish. So you've got to be intentional. So usage was number 2. Number 3 is writing. You do need some writing. It's not only good to help your brain assimilate everything, like, because like, first they saw, they heard, they spoke it, and then to write it, it just helps solidify everything together. And then it's encouraging too, because they say, oh, I know this. I know, whether you do a quiz or test or whatever, just a worksheet, like, I know what this is. I know how to say that. And it gives them a sense of accomplishment too. So writing is that. So exposure, and then usage, and then writing. The most important being exposure and usage. Writing is like cherry on top, but the first 2 are big, and especially they're in the order of importance. So they've got to hear it a lot, and not just from you. Obviously, if you're beginning or an intermediate, they've got to hear it from a native speaker. I highly recommend that too, because a movie, if your kids are old enough, I would use movies. I've done a movie or 2 in Italian with them. I watch a Chinese series on Netflix. There's so many, and with the subtitles, and then you take away the subtitles. It's a whole thing, but they like to watch it with me. I mean, it's a nice one. There's nothing, it's a G movie. G-rated is not a movie, it's a show. So the different seasons, and they want to know what happened here and there, but it's kid friendly. So yes, use the fun things, and that's it. Those are the 3 things that I use. And remember to use phrases, or that's how I teach a language, with phrases, something they can use, and not just the list of, I don't know, seasons, the basic things from kinder. Okay, this is a whole other soapbox, but this is I'll just throw this in because it's about learning languages. So what we usually learn in kinder, well, I did school in Mexico, but same. By the time we're in kinder, we were taught, the colors and the shapes and seasons and, all those fun things. But those things are learned after we already speak English. We communicate in English, we know all the other stuff, and we don't realize that. So when we're teaching Spanish or another language, we want to teach our kids those things that kindergarten level kids are learning. But when we learn those in English, we already knew a whole bunch of English by the time we hit kindergarten. So we've got to go back and focus, because how are they going to use, like, my name is so-and-so, my name is Dionne, I am 48 years old, and triangle, square, circle, oval, spring, winter, summer. Then what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with it? Nothing. So I forget about those things, and I focus on what they are saying right now and help them say it in Spanish or another language. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you are learning lots of Spanish and you're still encouraged about learning Spanish and about teaching Spanish, because it is so beautiful to learn more than one language. It just opens so many doors for you and your kids. And a big shout out to Chips and Salsa, to Didi and Jimena. Thank you for including me in this collab, and go check them out. And I will have their link down below. So thank you for tuning in, and see you next time. Nos vemos.